Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my Atlas plans for the first few days of the league. So this video will be cut into 3 stages. Basically, while I'm progressing, the first one will be with 50 points, the second one with 86 points, and the third one with 109 points, and then I give you some options to go from there. I will link the Atlas trees down in the description, but I will explain what I'm doing with this and why I'm doing it. So number one that I think will change this league with the reintroduction of 4 mod arch nemesis enemies is that essences are going to be pretty scary again at league start. I think the same will go for metamorphs. So that's already 2 things out of the way that I'm personally not going to engage with. The number 3 will be I will not be engaging with heist. That's a strat a lot of people like. I just don't really care about selling in the first few days, especially not contracts and blueprints. That being said, if you don't mind that, you can definitely add that on top. But let's go through what I'm personally going to do. So number 1, we go here and we just get twice tempted. We will not be focusing on strongboxes, but getting a strongbox every single map for 3 points just sounds pretty damn good. Now, I don't really know when I'm going to take one of these new nodes, but I'm probably going to take Alva. I don't know if it's going to be right at the start or later. I just want Alvars for later. Out of all the masters here, it just seems like the most money. And then we go right up to Supplication. I'm going to be running a goal. Even if I cannot get a goal because they somehow redid uniques and it's going to be super rare for some reason, it doesn't matter. An extra shrine is still good because that's a lot of mobs, right? Then we go here and we get Shaping the Skies to get a little bit better map sustain. Now then the next thing we do is we immediately go up to Scream of Consciousness. Now you will have seen that it moved from here down to here. This is just extremely good early, and you can get it way earlier now. This is like 15 points in or something, and you're getting a ton of content. Now we will be focusing on Harvest and Expedition later, but until then, what we're going to do is we're going to progress our Atlas upwards. Right now, I don't feel like there's any reason to take any of these notes, so we're going to leave them a little bit. The first thing we want to do is get right to Shaping the Valleys, Shaping the Seas for some better map sustain, and then also take the Commissioned Officer, which will provide us with extra Keurig missions, which is nice for map sustain. Then we go straight up, take Secret Operations along the way. As you can see, we're not really investing into strongboxes at all, so yeah, there's not really that much reason not to. You pay 3 points here, then you do the 2-pointer here. Now you have a chance to get maybe Scarabs. See that we don't take Tamper-Proof. Now, Corrupted Sixlings do not vendor for a Divine anymore. It's now 20 Fusings, which are going to be extremely devalued through that, which will mean that Corrupted Strongboxes might actually be a downside, but whatever you want to do, right? Then we go up to Shrines. We take Drawn to Power and Syncretism, and once again, we also take that even if we don't get a goal, just to make our character a little bit stronger. Other than just dropping loot, it's actually incredibly important that you don't die, because then you get levels and you get stronger, and also the shrines just make you stronger overall. So it's just a really neat package to get early. And after we have all of that, at the end, we're going to remove some of the content. And this is completely up to you. Number 1, I don't want Ritual. I do not want Blight. I do not want Metamorph. I think it's going to be too hard at the start with the new Nemesis mods. It's probably just going to be extremely rough. And I also removed Delirium, which is a little bit controversial, but I don't really see a reason to do it early. These are the 4s I actually block. You could theoretically also block these. I said that I don't really want to sell blueprints and rogue markers and stuff like that, but in the end, for a 1-pointer, it just doesn't feel like it's worth it. Sometimes you just get a random blueprint and it's like 15 chaos. So while I don't want to invest into it, I don't feel like it's worth blocking. But yeah, do these as you please. So now we're at the end of stage 1 and we have really good map sustain. We have shrines that make us stronger. We have a lot of random content with Stream of Consciousness, and we have it a little bit under control. So now we're going to get more legions, more sacred groves, more expeditions, more abysses, and more breaches. And we also set ourselves up really well for the next stage that we're going to go to, which is stage 2. Now let's look into it. Stage 2 is basically going to be us investing into both Expedition and Harvest. Now my reasoning behind this is, number 1, Expedition is basically a no-brainer. It's extremely strong at league start, but on top of that, 2-gen might actually be one of the ways you can now get Divine Orbs. With the Divine Orb changes, there's actually very little chance to get Divine Orbs nowadays because you can't really farm divination cards all that well. So I think 2-gen might actually be one of those things that can easily get you divines. Obviously, they will rebalance it, right? It's pretty RNG, but at the end of the day, I just don't see anything better than Expedition this league at this point. Harbinger got really nerfed. You can obviously go Harbinger if you're having problems with map sustain, but I don't think you will with the setup. It will also slow down your mapping because you're just standing there killing the Harbinger. So we're going into Ancient Writings. We're going Distinguished Demolitionist. I path through down here because it gives us extra chance to encounter an expedition, because at this point we're not going to be using Scarabs. We're still Stream of Consciousness, don't forget. We're also taking Bumper Crop, which is still a really good node. We have a lot of small harvest chance here. Now regarding Heist, I have a feeling that it's actually going to be extremely strong, even though it's going to be less crafts overall. Just being able to pinpoint what your League starter needs, like whether that's coloring, whether that's crafting, or in the worst case scenario, just selling the seeds to crafters, which are going to need those early really, really badly. So I think overall, Harvest is going to be really good money. Next up, we also take Bountiful Harvest. This is something a lot of people don't take, but since we are leveling right now, the extra XP and monsters is actually quite valuable. So I think it's definitely worth a point. After we got these two no-brainers, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to take Shaping the Mountains. Now we basically have shored up our map sustain. At this point, we should be like basically breezing. And then once again, you can block content. I blocked Breach, I blocked Abysses, and I also blocked Legions. Legions might actually be really good this league, but most League starters, mine included, are not that good at clearing Legions, so it doesn't really seem all that great. If you have, for example, a Proliferation build, you can definitely leave this on. And the last thing we do up here is we also take Buried Knowledge, which is once again Expedition, and then we take Heart of the Grove, which is Harvest. So basically now at the end of stage 2, what do we have? Well, with 87 points in, we have now established Expedition and Harvest as really, really strong part of our setup. We have a ton of chances, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18% chance to get that, plus all of the small nodes. Basically, every third map, you're going to get an Expedition. Every third map, you're going to get a Harvest. And that's without paying for a Scarab or paying for the map device. Now let's go into number 3. So number 3 is basically setting up our altars. So now we have our main money makers. We will now get into higher tier maps, so altars are going to be at our disposal. We immediately go here to Rampant Growth. We take all of the pack size right here. And we also go up with Shadow of Hunger to make the progression a little bit faster. And we also take Eldritch Gaze. I kind of forgot that one. Eldritch Gaze is also really, really strong. And then once we feel strong enough, what we're going to do on top is Wrath of the Cosmos. Now, this node will give you a ton of value, but I will say that if you don't feel comfortable with your build to do this, dying over and over is not going to do anything for you, right? You need that XP to get more passive points to get stronger, so you can also delay this. So what do we have at the end of stage 3? We now have a little bit of strongbox value. We have really good harvest setup, really good expedition setup, really great map sustain, and now we also have our altars up. And for stage 4, this is basically up to you. This depends on what your build excels at. Number 1, we don't really know how metamorphs work right now. If they actually stack with Arch Nemesis modifier, they might just be OP. So in that case, just take them, right? At this point, your character should be a little bit stronger, right? Essences, same thing at this point. If you can handle them, just spec into them. You're right there, you're right here, you're right here, and you are pretty much right here. And there's also Legions, which, once again, if you ignite Proliferation or you, for example, Corrupting Fever, and you have really good mapping, you can do this quite easily. It might be a lot of money. Don't forget, this league, Divines are really expensive, so Timeless Jewels will probably go up like crazy. You can also do Shaper Guardian farm, right? The Finishing Touch and go to Inevitable Ambush and just farm your fragments there. But yeah, in conclusion, basically you start off with Shrines and Strongboxes. Strongboxes because they're basically 3 and they're nice pack size, and Shrines are just going to make you stronger early, which can be really, really nice. It can mean that you are not going to die. Then you add Expedition and Harvest, which are going to be your main money makers. Since you have so much chance to get them, you don't actually need the map device, and you definitely don't need any Scarabs. You can just use Stream of Consciousness. You then set up your altars because you're now going to be in red maps, and that basically just means Eldritch Gaze, Rampant Growth, Shadow of Hunger, and Wrath of the Cosmos if your build can handle it. And at the end, the world is your oyster. I guess one more thing you could do that I didn't say is you can maybe do Hunt for Answers and Call of the Grove to really hone in on that chance for Harvest, chance for Expedition. I don't really feel like it's worth it, but yeah, at this point, you're going to be set up for the league, and this is how I'm going to do it. And yeah. Yeah. But that's it for the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe. As always, a huge shout out to my Twitch subscribers and my Patreons. I couldn't do stuff like this without you. Thank you so much for the support. And yeah, gonna be a fun league. I wonder how good Harvest is actually gonna be. This is maybe a little bit risky. I don't think so, but who knows? From what I've seen, obviously you're not gonna get as much Life Force as you want to. but just being able to like target craft stuff at League Start, like just being able to reforge Chaos over and over for Poison build, for example, is going to be very valuable. But with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.